Hi, I'm Taylor Huckaby, and I'm here with my dad, Matt Huckaby, to discuss his life and the historical events that have occurred to it. So, to start off, when and where were you born, and can you tell me a little bit about your childhood?
Sure, Tay. I was born on March the 31st, 1978 in Beaumont, Texas. My earliest childhood memories were growing up in Roselawn. We lived on Bridal Wreath there in Orange, Texas. I remember being in kindergarten, and my older brother Aaron was in first grade, and we would walk to school every day. And we'd come home. There was a gully there in the back of the neighborhood that we'd play in, and we'd ride our bikes down to, and we did all these amazing things. And I don't remember our parents being around a whole lot. And so you think about today, I can't imagine a 5 and a 6-year-old and our younger brother Adam, who's a year younger. We ran everywhere together, and there's pretty much one rule, and you had to be home before it got dark. That was a pretty wild time to grow up, looking at it, kind of in today's terms. There was no technology. We visited a lot. We played a lot. We played outside. I remember talking on the phone, and there was a landline, and you had to make sure that your little brother wasn't listening in on the hallway, because they tend to do that. There's very little privacy, but you had, we got along well. We resolved conflicts. We fought. We played. We got dirty. We hurt ourselves. We hurt each other. It was just a pretty interesting time. I remember after kindergarten into first grade, we moved to Mauriceville, which was out in the country. We had some acreage. We didn't have a whole lot of neighbors, but it was pretty convenient to have two other brothers that were kind of live-in playmates. And again, we did all the things that brothers do. I remember as we got a little bit older, we each had single-shot 20-gauge little breech-load shotguns, and we'd grab a handful of shotgun shells and put them in our pocket, and we would disappear for the whole day. I remember Mom locking us out of the house, and so y'all go play outside, and she'd lock the door. We literally couldn't come in the house, and we drank out of the fire hose, and we did all those things that you hear people from that generation talk about. It was amazing, and I had a lot of memories from that. And that's why when we moved back to the area onto acreage here, that I wanted some of that for you guys to be able to get out and have room to play and do things independently with some type of freedom. But I also grew up in a real sweet spot where early on there was no technology, and we could play, and the world was safe, and we were innocent, and all the things that people could do. But I also remember probably about that time frame, like first, second grade, we got a Nintendo Entertainment System, the first in-home video game, and we thought we owned the world with jumping up and getting mushrooms that made you bigger, and fireball plants, and jumping on turtles. And I just remember really getting immersed in that video game, while at the same time having to get up and walk across the room to select one of the 4 TV channels that we had at the time. Saturday morning cartoons. You didn't sleep in. You got up early. You ate some horribly unhealthy cereal and sat there on the floor in the living room to watch cartoons until noon. Because at noon, the adult shows came on, or the grown-up boring, Phil Donahue show or whatever came on TV. And that's usually about the time we got locked outside and had to go play. But it's kind of like the verge of a lot of things that I got to experience and got to see. Like I said, the Nintendo Entertainment System came out. I remember playing an Atari with Uncle Bobby and Buna, and Pong was like this great thing, and it was literally just like 8-bit pixels, and we thought that was cool. And then Tecmo Bowl was the greatest game of its time. And then I remember CD players, and that my Uncle Pete had a CD player at his house, and it was so wild in that time of the 80s, because they were so incredibly expensive. It was like the biggest deal that he had a CD player. And then, the technology was more common and it got less expensive. And then you had these little Sony Discmen that were kind of portable with headsets. Well, then they had this deal that it actually looked like a cassette tape that had a cord on it that you could plug into your Sony Discman and stick into the cassette player of your truck, so that it would play the CDs in your truck that was set up for a cassette tape,
Cool.
And then I remember like Pioneer in-dash CD players were a big deal. And Uncle Aaron he was into speakers and loud music and all that kind of stuff. I never really got into that, but he did. And, so I remember kind of that coming along. And now, the vehicles we have today, you can get a CD player. Everything's MP3s or satellite radio or it's whatever else. And I remember sitting by the radio waiting for your favorite song to come on to hit record, so that you could kind of make your own mixtape, but you had to do it in real time. And with all the white noise and you hope the DJ didn't talk through the end of it or whatever. And now just literally you pick up your phone and you could, download or listen to any song that you want to anywhere, and even songs you didn't know of. I remember being in high school and cell phones became accessible to most people. I had an aunt that had the massive bag phone that she would have in her car, and I don't know that she ever even used it, but it looked like a whole freaking briefcase with a phone on the top of it. But I remember I was a senior in high school, and they, my mom worked for the school district, and Nokia had this special where school employees could have a cell phone at a discounted rate, and it was like 50 cents a minute to use it. And I remember, like, if you waited to the certain 9 o'clock at night or on the weekends, then it was like 10 cents a minute. So it got pretty expensive when you're in college and you're trying to talk to people back home when waiting till a certain time to do that. And just how readily accessible cell phones are now, and how 4th and 5th graders, and even younger than that, some 2nd graders have cell phones nowadays. I remember when the internet became user friendly. I remember being at Sam Houston State as a freshman-ish, and they had Sam Mail, and it was like this DOS-based email system, but you had to like type in the code and then type the message and then type in code and then do your, whatever. It was this thing. And then it became like AOL and Yahoo, and you literally just click on an icon, and computers were very user friendly, and you had all this information at your fingertips. Now you just think about what the internet is today and how readily available information is. It was kind of neat to see things evolve and things progress rapidly. It's just, I remember going to arcades and spending money to play games. Well, then you could play them in the house. And there's just been a lot. It's been neat to see technology advance. It's been neat to see how our culture adapts to that. But it's also kind of given me a perspective and outlook, now as a high school administrator and working with young people who have grown up completely immersed in technology. There's some of those soft skills and things that they've lost and really struggle to do that come very naturally to my generation. But I think it's, we're not quite the older generation where they struggle with some technology. We fully embrace it and we're excited about it. But I kind of feel like I had the best of both worlds. It's a really neat time to grow up.
Mm-hmm. So as a whole, how would you say that society has changed since you've been alive?
I think we are in closer contact than we've ever been, but I think our relationships aren't what they used to be. I think we are closer to people. We are in closer connectivity to people all over the world, but people in our own communities or even neighbors are so much further apart than we've ever been. People don't communicate. People don't talk about things. You used to be able to have a conversation with a neighbor or family member about politics or religion, or you could disagree with somebody and it was okay. That's just, you just didn't agree. And now it's this, everything's blown out of proportion with throwing around words like bigotry and hatred and all those things. And I feel like some of those things are less prevalent than they've ever been, but people get accused of it more than they ever have. So it's just odd that something that was created to connect more people has harmed relationships, I believe, in local immediate communities and with people that we're around with in a common community.
Mm-hmm. So you're kind of young in 2008, but how did the 2008 financial crisis affect you and your family?
How old was I in 2008? I got married in 2006, and I was 28. So I'd probably been about 30 at that time. Let me just tell you that the financial crisis of 2008 was garbage. I had just gotten my real estate license, and it was all fired up about this awesome job that I had selling ranch land and real estate in Bandera, Texas. And the housing market just tanked. And the economy was bad. People weren't buying things. And here I am on a full commission real estate sales job, and I was like, okay, well, this is not going to work. I'm too talented and work too hard to be on a commission based pay rate in a bad economy. But professionally, I've been able to be pretty flexible. When I graduated from college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I've had the opportunity to try a lot of things. And as we sit here this evening, I've been fortunate enough to do just about everything I ever thought that I wanted to do. But the thing that I enjoy the most is working with young people. And, now I've worked my way up to an administration level at my alma mater. And walking the hallways of LCM High School is very different than walking the old quad back in the late 90s. And things have changed. And some things have improved, and some things have I wish they were the way they were back then. But I feel like we make the most of what we got and just try to help young people, give them a little bit of perspective, and help them be the best people that they can be to navigate all the craziness that's coming in the future.
Mm-hmm. So to talk about something that really affect everyone in America, but where were you and what do you remember about the attacks on 9/11?
9/11 was... Man, that impacted everybody. At the time, I had a government job. I was working for the Social Security Administration, and there was a phone in our manager's office that it wasn't like the red phone that the president called or whatever, but it was one of those important phones that that's kind of the government contact phone. You know what I mean? I'll never forget her getting a call on that phone, and she got up and walked across the office and turned on the TV in our kind of conference room. And it was just weird. We all kind of gravitated in there as kind of word spread at what had happened. And watching the first tower was smoking. And we're like, what is going on? There's a plane crashed into one of the towers in New York. And we're like, oh my gosh. Well, I remember standing there in that office with my coworkers at the Social Security Administration when the second plane came out of nowhere and just smoked the building. And it was like, you've got to be kidding. Like, this is not, this is not normal. Something's happened that, this is an attack of sorts. Yeah. But you hear people say that, how terrible 9/11 was. But America was a pretty amazing place to be on 9/12. Mm-hmm. Just the way that everyone kind of rallied together and kind of unified as a country. I feel like America is one of those places that you can say a lot of things about America. There's a lot of negative things or things that could be better, or things that need to improve. But America on its worst day is far better than any other place in the world. Yeah. And so we kind of got to experience a little bit of that. But speaking of technology, the good old World Wide Web, you can go down all kind of rabbit holes to research the situation, circumstances of that day that can kind of change your perspective too. So I think. It's that was an interesting time, a very catastrophic time, but also a very proud and inspiring time in our country. So remember it very well.
That's good. Is there anything else that you like to add about your life?
Well, I having this conversation kind of helps me realize that I've seen a lot, and I've experienced a lot, and I've done a lot, and I hope to continue to do a lot more. But it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed it. I look forward to more. I look forward to watching you guys grow up and do all the amazing things. If I have seen so much change in my lifetime, I look to see what all you guys get to see and change in yours. You see that picture on the internet, on social media, where they have all the things of my childhood that you have on your phone right now. Mm-hmm. Like you're recording this conversation on your phone. That was like a whole thing to have like a voice recorder, this whole separate deal. You have a video camera, you have a camera, you have all the, word process, all these things. Literally, we could cover this whole table full of the individual pieces of technology that you literally have in that, light purple package that you put in your pocket, or better not at school, because now you can't have them at school or whatever else. But you've got so many tools at your fingertips, just helping you guys navigate how to use those to the fullest to help you become who you're supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I think is something I'm looking forward to a great deal.
Yeah, it's really cool. Well, thank you. That's all the questions I have for you. Thank you for talking to me.
I enjoyed it.